Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Welcome, Marvel fans, to episode 44 of Marvelcast, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast by fans for fans. Each week we will discuss the latest news regarding the MCU, followed by reviews and discussion of the latest released content in this ever-expanding multiverse. I'm your host, Steve, and joining with me, as always, is my co-host, JG. JG, some plans changed. This is our first time communicating outside of a few chats since we saw Ant-Man. So I'm very excited. You and I have done a very good job of not even letting each other know any reactions we had to it. I don't know if you saw my letterbox. I didn't see yours, so I don't know. We'll start there. How have you been since Ant-Man, and are you excited to dive into our spoiler review tonight?
Yeah, I'm very excited. You know, life is a sense of humor, you know, kind of whatever that quote is in Jurassic Park. Life always finds a way. I found out this week I'm moving in 2 weeks, so life is be crazy. I was also sick last weekend, so that kind of pushed us back a little bit. But I did see Ant-Man, which was such a great trick. I also saw, you know, what I think is gonna be movie of the year, Steven. I think even more importantly than Ant-Man and the Wasp, I saw Pooh, Blood and Honey. That that movie.
How's it compared to Morbius?
Morbius might be technically a better movie, but Pooh, Blood and Honey is more fun.
I'm looking forward to. That's one I've been looking forward to. My friends and I have looked at all the, promotional stuff about it, and I'm ready to see that whenever I can when it's video on demand, I guess.
It's ridiculous. Go in it with an open mind, know what you're getting, and have fun with it.
And you said it was a full theater when you went.
Yeah, in my theater there was not a single empty seat. The audience was super engaged. People were laughing. People were screaming. People were swearing at the survivors of the film, the people trying to survive the carnage. It was a good time. It was probably one of the best theater experiences I've had since probably No Way Home.
Was it a better theater experience than Ant-Man?
Oh, Ant-Man was quite responsive, but I feel like the Blood and Honey audience was rocking more, way more interactive. But I think Blood and Honey was more of a film where it's going to engage with the audience. If you have the right audience, you're going to engage with this film. You're going to gasp. You're going to cover your eyes. You're going to laugh. You're going to laugh a lot more than you probably think you will with this movie. This movie is hilarious.
So basically you're saying we're going to spin off and do a fairy tales horror cinematic universe podcast at some point.
Well, I don't want to get people's hopes up, but the director of the film is planning to connect all the films and make a multiverse of horror films.
I saw that and I'm interested. Now, what I draw the line at is the idea of, Mickey Mouse going into public domain. That really scares me because Mickey is someone I hold near and dear. And so the idea of Mickey showing up in these kind of things at some point does scare me. I hope Disney can somehow keep their hands on top of him.
I think Disney's going to fight that tooth and nail. Disney's not going to give that up.
Well, this is not the cinematic universe for Pooh and such, but maybe one day it will be. We can always branch out. Who knows? Anyhow, we're going to go light on the news tonight. We're just going to do a shorter episode. We will start with our discussion kind of spoiler-free of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. We'll then go full spoilers into it. Before we do that, JG and I discussed off air, as Marvel is taking a little hiatus right now, our podcast and, between different life events, including moving, we are going to be taking a short hiatus as well. I know we just came back at the beginning of 2023, but please bear with us as we continue to restructure our format. We should be back at the end of March. We're looking probably being up on the air again March 31st. So again, we're going to take about a month off, but we are excited to get back, and by that point we will have lots of news to discuss, and we will hopefully have an announcement of when our next project will be coming out, which is probably either Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or maybe Secret Invasion. So that'll be coming up before we know it. All right, so non-spoiler to start us off, JG, can you first talk about What format did you see the movie in, and initial thoughts, initial viewing experience, and then I'll share mine too.
Yes, so I saw it in IMAX, which was a great experience. Overall, it
Was it
was.
IMAX 3D? Because they kept promoting 3D for this
Yeah, I
movie.
did not do 3D.
Okay, you don't like 3D a lot.
I do not like 3D. The only film, the only film that I've liked seeing in 3D was actually the Avatar films. So,
Is that because
um,
I forced you to see those in 3D or not?
I think it's because it's like those films were made and meant to be
Yeah,
watched in 3D. Like it's like I feel like they're the only films where it's required to watch in 3D.
I agree with you. I haven't ever had a 3D experience that I could say was worth it except for Avatar.
Yeah, I've seen a very
Maybe
few
Endgame.
because it's just not for me. I will say, I have heard from people who have watched this film multiple times that have seen it in 3D, and they have said that their viewing experience improved and increased by watching it in 3D. So I would keep that in mind if you're watching it multiple times. This film, this film is a very interesting film, and I can't wait to discuss it.
Hmm.
I loved the heck out of it. It is a fun film. It's not super it's not super space opera like I think some people are talking about it. It's way more sci-fi, and there's a lot to love about this film. There's a lot of this film that is kind of quirky and kind of works barely in a way. But overall, I did not have as much problem as many people did with this film. I thought overall, it was a really good film, and it gets me very excited for the future of the MCU. I think I gave it a 3.5 on Letterbox. Let's see. Yep, I gave it a 3.5 on Letterbox.
And I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so we were pretty close
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I did enjoy parts of it. I went to my small little theater that I could walk to. That is not the best screen or sound, but it's convenient with having a 1 year old and finding a babysitter and stuff. So it's convenient. It's I still got to be there for Thursday night, and the theater was not sold out, but that's okay. It was still pretty full, and I like that theater experience. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to see another one with you soon. But
Yes.
anyhow, yeah, I walked out of it. I mean, lately these Marvel movies, they kind of just seem to pop up. Like I think back to like Phase 3, and like my build up anticipation like was like counting down the seconds. And I think maybe the nice thing about these are, I think last week it dawned on me, I'm like, whoa, Ant-Man's this week. And then it was like, oh, Ant-Man's today. And like it makes those work days go a lot faster because you're so excited. But like maybe it's just I've been trying not to get super. I think Multiverse of Madness taught you and I to speculate responsibly and like
Yes.
kind of keep our expectations in check, and I think that's helped out. Um, I went in and I kind of had an idea of what I was going to experience, but like you said, it's very sci-fi. I've seen a little bit of Rick and Morty, and I know it's being compared because one of the writers of Rick and Morty um, wrote this. Just in general, we know that the writer of this movie is also writing or has already written Kang Dynasty. Does that excite you? Does that worry you at all? Like, what are you feeling like having the same writer between these two projects?
It makes me confident because it will assure me that the little tidbits that maybe we haven't picked up on yet in this film are going to be connected when that film comes out, and obviously through the other films of this phase in the movies into six. And I think because of the fact that it's his story that he's crafted, he's going to know what those details are. He's not going to have to like look at another person's work. Like he's the one who put it there. So I think he's going to be able to shift the tone to a more serious and somber tone, less comedic that the Ant-Man movies usually call for. And I think
Mhm.
that Avenger film, I think there's going to be quite a few little things where we're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was, blank from Quantumania. Where we're going to be like, dang.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that viewpoint. I hadn't considered that. I think I was a little bit nervous at first with the idea of there were a lot of there were a lot of characters in this movie, and the balance between them was not maybe what I was hoping for, as we'll talk about. And so when you now have an Avengers lineup, that worries me because like I felt like, again, maybe I'm off, but even like Infinity War and Endgame that have so many characters, the writing of those plots and those stories, like you get to spend a lot of time with all of those characters, even though the movies are long anyway. But it makes me a little bit worried that some of our Avengers might get sidelined, but I hope that that's not the case. I think maybe this movie needed to focus on 3 or 4 characters and sideline a few. But yeah, we can talk about that as we get more into spoilers. I'm trying to think, what else can we talk about on spoilers
I
before? Okay,
I
go ahead.
will say in regards to that, I think it can be. I think while some characters were sidelined, I do think he is able to pull off the separate storyline because, like, we did see instances where there were two or three stories going on at the same time, which
Mhm.
kind of can like make us look back at in Infinity War, where there were like so many different stories that were all
Yeah.
separate and coming together, and so while the priority was definitely on certain characters because of just what this film was about and who it was
Mhm.
about.
Mhm.
Um, it necessitated characters to take a backstory, but at the very least, it did show that he can at least, for lack of a better term, he can break up the party and still tell something of a story with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know before we had spoken on here about you're not a huge fan of the Ant-Man movies. Like,
Yeah.
is this your favorite Ant-Man movie? Is this how does it rank with your three Ant-Man movies?
So, we'll do a good little visual here. We have Ant-Man 1, it's kind of like right here, kind of nice and low. Ant-Man 2 is a little bit higher, nothing too crazy, and then Ant-Man 3 is like off the screen. Like I think
Really?
for
Yeah.
me,
Good.
this movie is tremendously more my style than the other two Ant-Man movies.
Yeah, I like the first Ant-Man. I mean, I think I like the first Ant-Man more than the second one, but this one still, I think, mm, there's different elements I like about all of them. Like I like the heist, and I like some of
Mm,
the elements of like the mystery of the first one, and then this one, like it was just like all like in your face. You're in a whole new world. Like
yeah.
they don't even give you a chance to breathe because like before the movie starts, like at the very beginning of the first act, you've already in the quantum realm. Like
Yeah.
this movie was, I think, one of the most appropriate titles because you are in the quantum realm for 95% of the movie, I would say, right?
Yeah, and it's mania.
It is. It's full of mania. It's full of lots of things that deserve a second watch. I probably won't see it again until Disney Plus. How about you?
Yeah, I was gonna see it, but I think I'm gonna hold off because it's definitely a movie I want to watch at home, comfort, and just be able to pause and look at things closer. There's a lot of details in this film, a lot of slight hints of the future storytelling of the MCU.
Yeah, I think even more we may not have caught the first time that will be revealed in time.
Yes.
We can start diving into some spoilers if that's good with you.
Yes, that sounds good. So if you haven't watched yet, so this is the time now to head out. But now we will be spoiling.
All right. Start us off. What are you thinking? Are there characters or moments or events? Like what stands out to you a week after seeing the movie?
I think pretty clearly, and I think this is like most everyone on the planet who's seen this movie, which is Kane. I think
Mhm.
Kane. This movie was about Kane. With I think a good side story, or maybe not side story, but supporting story of Janet. Janet. Yeah,
Yeah,
Janet.
she
Janet.
had a bigger part than I expected.
Yeah,
Um, it
I.
starts with them. Remember, the opening scene is the two of them, and
Yeah,
then you don't see him again probably till the middle of the second act. Like, there's a
yeah.
big gap. The whole first act, he's really not in. And I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit at the first act because it's such a drastic change in maybe tone and visuals going into the quantum realm than what anything we've seen before usually in the MCU. And so like the first act I struggled with like getting my bearings almost.
Mm.
But then by the time Kang showed up, I was ready and like I really enjoyed the second and third act more I think because of him in it. And that's maybe again a little bit of a shame because it's called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Do you think should the movie have had Kang in the subtitle since he's such a big role or not?
Um, I don't think so. I don't know, cause like we haven't gotten another movie. I mean, I know he's probably this is one of the biggest roles for a villain, probably, but I mean, I don't think any of the other films have given. Oh, I guess Ultron. Ultron got his name in
Mm,
the film. I guess besides that, though, that's the only one I can think of on the top of my head. I don't know.
yeah.
I think it's I think the bigger question for most people. And I don't look at it too much because I think it's more of a franchise name, whatever. I think most people are questioning why is Wasp in the name of the movie because
I actually
she didn't get much to do. But
she did not, but I had an idea. Like I was sitting there as she was sidelined during the movie for most of it, and I kept thinking we're seeing more of Janet. I thought part of me throughout the movie was like, if Hank comes through at the end, like with some massive scene or maybe a sacrifice, you could easily justify then saying it's named after Hank and Janet, which I
Hank
would
and
have been
Janet.
totally like, that would have been such a cool like twist because like everyone goes in thinking it's Paul Rudd's movie and it was also his movie.
It was.
But if it would have ended up being like Hank and Janet as the leads, like that would have been so surprising. And even if they didn't market it that way, I would have totally been on board with that because like it would have been the original Ant-Man and Wasp story. And like I definitely think this was Janet had more screen time and more to do than her daughter for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, she
And
did.
wonder how Evangeline Lilly, the actress, feels about that. Like, I mean, I'm sure she still got a great payday. I'm sure, but as an actress, as someone who we found out recently turned down a Wonder Woman position with Joss Whedon years ago, is this does this upset her? I mean, does she want more? Because like she was not in Infinity War because she was dusted.
Yeah.
She had a small part in the final battle of Endgame. Like, I'm hoping that maybe we get to finally see her kick some butt come Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, right?
Well, she's talking about wanting to do that. It's time for a Wasp solo movie, and so I don't think she's done. I don't think she wants to be done. I think she realized that this film was going to be what it was going to be, but at the very least, her character is still around. Her character did have moments. I think specifically towards the end, I think she's great in like the last 10 minutes. It's a shame that the other rest of the movie, there's really not much. You really could have done some really interesting storytelling about her and Cassie. Even I think there was a lot of missed potential with those two specific characters. Um,
Um,
yeah.
I
I mean,
agree. Those are the two that
there's still more that could be told, but for this specific movie, I think there were some missed opportunities.
I don't think we're gonna see some of these characters again until Kang Dynasty, which is a couple years away, because you can't really have Ant-Man come into contact in a show or another movie with these other characters without mentioning Kang. Like, think about to Infinity War. Like, as soon as Tony Stark heard the name Thanos for the first time, he was all in, focused on it, because that
Yeah.
was life or death. And Kang's on the same level as Thanos. So, like, as soon as Scott were to tell anyone about, like, he thinks that Kang's gone. We'll talk about the ending.
Yeah.
He thinks that Kang's gone, and then he keeps like questioning himself. But he's like, nah, he's fine. And it's not fine.
Nope.
And if Scott sees any other Avenger, like, I don't know. I liked a lot of things about the movie, but at the same time, I'm thinking you kind of leave your characters. There wasn't a ton of character progression for most of them. Like you leave Scott almost at the same way, paralleling
Yeah.
how he was at the beginning and the end. Like he is someone that still is avoiding responsibility of being a hero.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's in line with the comic character, but
it could be the point too of that character, and that there could be some
Yeah.
consequences.
yeah, because he doesn't step up to the plate when he needed to here. Maybe at the end. Where else would I want to go? I think we had talked in the last week about our speculation, and we didn't think that either maybe Hank or Janet were going to make it out. I mean, everyone makes it out, and even
Yeah.
though Kang doesn't, I don't think that's the last time we see this version of Kang. I think this version of Kang is going to come back with a vengeance at some point. This is the Kang, is my interpretation, and so no one died. I mean, it just kind of makes me wonder. Like, I thought the stakes would have been a little bit higher,
Yeah.
especially like if you're starting off Phase 5. I still think Civil War is probably my favorite starter of a phase, more than this one. What do you think?
It's too early to tell, because I think that this film is going to be amplified by the future films that connect to it. Similarly to how Civil War was connected to. I mean, Civil War stands on its own very well, but it also has a lot of things that tie into it after it. So I do think it's going to be telling to see what it comes forth in the rest of Phase 5.
Do you think they missed an opportunity, or it'll pay off later on, to not make the connection to Shang-Chi or to Miss Marvel? Like, that's something we all assumed was going to happen, like even the references to them, but there was no references to those characters, to their bangles, to anything. Was that a missed opportunity, or will it pay off?
I think there are references there. There was nothing. I will say this. There's nothing that was verbally said. There was nothing that was explicitly shown per se. However, I do think, and I just could not stop staring at it. I do think his the I guess that was like the power thing. Whenever it was like it was made huge, the whole floating things. The moment where because I had been speculating this even when we saw the trailer. I've been speculating when I was watching the movie. When he said one word, and that's when I was like, okay, I think that's where they're going with this. He called them rings. I mean, obviously they're cylinder, they're rings, but we also know there are also 10 rings. So I think that the rings, the bangle, they all tie in some way. You know, somebody had talked about what if this was like the future, and like we're seeing the future. He's already gotten the bangle. He's already gotten the rings or whatever. There's different things that could play in there. Plus, if you look close on the rings themselves, and even with that machine and such, you can see iconography that's very resemblant to the Eternals calligraphy that was in their ship, like the thin lines and circles. It's identical to what we see if you look in the movie, very similar. So it's not. In my opinion, I thought it was kind of in your face, kind of, because like the kind of like Scott's here, and then you see the ring, and then like you're like the ring is like going, and you're like you can see like the letter, like the lines and the circles that are very similar to what we see in the Eternals. So I think that there's connections there, and I think we don't know what it means yet, but I think we're going to find out when we get to, especially like the sequel to Shang-Chi, the sequel to the Eternals, when we get to the Marvels, etc.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll more be laid out for us a little bit clearer, but I think there are Easter eggs being planted for sure.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on MODOK? Because he definitely was. He, I think, had the most reaction, I think, from my audience. Did he have a big reaction in yours?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know, I've heard a lot of very loud WTFs in movie theaters, especially watching horror. That probably had one of the loudest WTFs I've ever heard. And it was more like a shock. Like, they're really doing this. For me personally, you know, maybe I just don't have an eye for it. Maybe I just, you know, and to say all that, it didn't bother me. Like, he's supposed to be weird, uncanny, and just strange. And I know a lot of critics have said that technically the technical work of it is bad. Like, yes, it's supposed to look weird and janky, but then the technical work is not supposed to be janky. So I personally cannot tell the difference. And so for me, it worked. I laughed during quite a bit of his scenes. The ending of him with his death scene did not work for me as well as it did for other people. I actually liked him before his death more than his death.
Yeah, MODOK is just one of those, like you said, weird, funky characters that I was always attracted to, like, as a character, someone they catch your eye because they're so different. And if you're gonna do something different, do it in this movie. You know, I liked it. Now, I will say, whatever the second trailer, whenever there's a split second of him that you and I were sent screenshots. I wish that would not have been in there. Like, I wish someone would have caught that, because it would have been so much better had my first ever, like, I knew he was coming and I knew it was going to look like, as we saw it in the second trailer. If you would have seen it when his mask first comes off there, it would have been such a moment you would have never forgotten, because it's just so crazy how it looks. And Corey Stoll did a great job. I thought MODOK, I mean, is just such a cool character. And like, I bet he was so excited to return after being in the first one. And I agree with you. I liked MODOK up until Cassie told him to stop being a dick, and he had that change. Because, I mean, maybe he's like that in the comic book. He has pause. I don't think so. I don't know. But the fact that the one death out of the movie, the one major death, is MODOK's, that hit me in a bad way, because he's a character I wanted to see up against other characters, just how cool and different it would look. Yeah. And maybe we'll get a variant. I doubt it. I think this was a one and done. It makes me sad because I want to see more MODOK. And I did not, I'm an Avenger didn't sit well with me because, I mean, it was a joke, but it's still just something felt off there. I agree with you. Up until the death and up until his change to good,
Yeah.
I loved MODOK, and I want to see more of MODOK, and I don't think we will. Do you think any chance I'll get my wish and see him again?
I almost wonder if they, because of the backlash and criticism, I almost wonder if they have like a challenge for like the future or whatever to like do a better version, for lack of a better terms.
Well,
I
they did
could
it
see
with
it.
Mandarin, remember?
True. I could see it. I would not count it out
So you could bring in a variant version at some point in the
easily.
multiverse. That'd be cool. And different
Easily.
actor, different look, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't know. It wasn't like I wasn't mad that he turned per se. I was more just I didn't like the writing and the jokes, and it didn't land for me. I was like, okay, nah, I don't know.
yeah. What about Bill Murray as Janet's former lover and the Lando Calrissian of the MCU?
He is a fantastic actor. That was great. That turn actually shocked me.
Mhm.
I did not see that coming, and I was like, oh, we're going there. And really great delivery, great lines, good character. Kind of, I mean, I guess it's just really just a minor supporting character, but it would be kind of cool to know a little bit more. I guess we did kind of find out a little bit too much, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Great, good,
I
fun
heard that he
character.
was actually, I think either filmed it or was supposed to. I think he was supposed to be in the third act, like
Hmm.
making amends for what he did and turning her in. And I guess actually, I read yesterday somewhere online that the third act went through some massive reshoots in
Yeah,
the past month. Like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to get the details. Did Scott get stuck in the quantum realm by the end? It was more of an
him,
ominous ending.
him and Hope.
And I actually would have been fine with that. It would have, I mean, and Cassie so quickly and easily finds them, like, it feels like, oh, okay. Let me throw out two more complaints and help me get
Yes.
back onto a good positive vibe, okay?
Yep.
The first two movies are so much about you get lost in the quantum realm, you
Mm.
can't breathe in the quantum realm. This one, they completely rewrite the rules in the first 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Help me with that, and then help me with they kept hinting at it throughout the movie, and every time they've gone in the quantum realm before, they don't come right back to the time they left. But this one didn't seem like they were affected, and we always thought they were going to be affected by time. So help me with those two: the breathing and living in the quantum realm, and not being displaced in time.
Well, the first one I think is just as simple as like they just didn't know it. They had made assumptions, like even to the point where like Hank is like, "Oh, there's this, there's people." Like they just didn't know the rules. They thought they knew the rules, but they didn't know the rules. Um, in regards to the time, well, I think two things. One, did they tell us like did they give us an explicit like time frame?
I mean,
Did they say they
I
come
think
back
by not
immediately?
even addressing it, I think by not addressing it, like I think if they would have come back a year or two or five later, it would have been a plot point.
Point.
If they
Okay.
don't even mention it, it makes it seem like it wasn't important when they came back, and it must not have been much later.
Okay. I also wonder if it just maybe it doesn't always happen, or it can be. We've watched Doctor Who. We know that time is all wibbly wobbly,
Mm,
timey wimey. Like,
yeah,
um, I mean, I'll be honest. At the end of the day, it's plot convenience. It's what it
it is.
is. But I
Mm,
mean, you could come up with something that can make
sure.
it work.
They're not hills worth dying on. There were just small little
No.
nitpicks I had. And
Yeah.
again, I think the little nitpicks is what kept me from having anything higher than a three.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still liked the movie. I still enjoyed it. I
Yes.
really did like the third act. Like, the battle was good. And,
Oh
like, when
yeah.
Hank showed up with the big ants, like, it had a lot of moments that I was cheering for. And I wish I would have seen it on an IMAX theater like you, I think. Um, so there are moments
Beautiful.
that I will remember and that looked awesome. And like I think one of my favorite scenes, and I need to again go back and watch it like I did with the finale of Loki, is when Kang lays out the multiverse again. Like no
Mm,
matter how many times we hear this and he shows the rings there, like you mentioned earlier. I think he was talking to Janet at that point, or
yeah.
maybe it was Scott. But that scene right there, like that's a short little monologue. Like it kind of reminded me of when I think it was the Benicio del Toro character in Guardians is the Collector. When the
Collector.
Collector was explaining in the first Guardians about the Infinity Stones, like
Mm,
that's huge. This is huge, but it would have been like Thanos explaining about it. Like this is huge that we get Kang explaining the multiverse and how it works. And I think that's an important scene that will go very well with what He Who Remains explained it and had a little bit more time to explain it. So like that's a scene that I think is going to be super important
Oh
for the
yeah,
rest of the multiverse saga for sure.
very much so. What do you think about this King? We haven't really talked much about this variant of King, the Conqueror.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad they introduced him when they did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we have already met He Who Remains. I think it kind of got us more hyped for it than if we would have not have seen any variant before.
Yeah,
I think he's very sneaky. He's very smart, calculated. Like the fact that he got Janet in that flashback, which was a great scene,
yeah,
to help him rebuild his ship, and was so stoic. And I liked how she was able to kind of connect with the ship and find out his truth, and he wasn't even phased by it. Like he thinks what he's doing is right,
yeah,
like Thanos did, but he's not just wiping out half of the universe. He is wiping out universes. He's wiping out. You can't even imagine how many people was wiped out, and like he's trying to conquer it all. And like the whole time travel stuff, I want to get a little bit more clarification on because no matter what franchise uses it, there's always that question about time travel. Like I want to know more about his story, like his origins, this version,
yeah.
how he connects to some of the other variants and their stories. But as a villain, I cannot wait. And I mean, it's kind of like the Wanda Maximoff. Like
Yeah.
they're both dead. They're Schrodinger's cat, right? We're gonna see, I think, both of
Mm-hmm.
them again, and I'd be really surprised if he is not the main Kang going forward, and when he comes back, whether it's in Kang Dynasty or whenever, right?
I agree. I think
Do you like
that.
him?
Oh, I loved the every scene that it was just a scene stealer. He really did such a good job with Janet. Those are my favorite scenes of the whole movie. I could just watch that movie and so Shakespearean and just. I think he wanted to be killed or whatever that happened. I think that was part of his plan. Maybe not because I think he did really want to get out, but I do think he's smart. He's not smart. And maybe if it wasn't part of his plan, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back with a vengeance. He's gonna come back to, um, he's gonna want to kill some more Avengers. But I think there's some other characters that he's gonna want to kill that we could talk about soon.
Mhm.
That I think will. I think that's how the Kang Dynasty actually will end and lead us into Secret Wars. But um, this variant I thought was very good, very scary, very Darth Vader like, and
Yeah,
just a
I was
menace.
just about to say that. Like how Vader's face is always so stoic. I
Hmm.
don't think you don't see Kang like get visually angry a lot, and he never smiles at all, right? He's always just very
Yeah,
stoic and like it's so emotionally, but he's still able to express so much emotion. Like he is someone that wants to get out of the quantum realm. He's been stuck in it again with time messing with him probably for a very, very long time. Like he built up an empire right there inside of
yeah,
the quantum realm.
very much so.
And he's a great performer too. I really liked him. And then we can talk about the credit scenes because they played in. I mean, the
Yes.
amount of times we saw Jonathan Majors there. I think first credit scene was really. I mean, they were both really great scenes, but the first one, when we focus on Ramatat, we focus on Immortus
Yep.
and the
The rest,
Centurion.
Centurion.
And
Yep.
I'm starting to read some of these old 1960s comics where these guys are starting to pop up for the first time. And it's really kind of cool. Like, I think, I'll be honest with you, I'm glad neither of them were spoiled for me. I know we had our own
Mm,
predictions, but that was, I think, my version of what big comic book readers felt in 2012 when they saw Thanos in the end of Avengers for the first time.
mm,
Because I see Ramatut and that's out of the three that are up there, the only one that I'm like familiar with besides Kang the Conqueror. And I saw him, I'm like, I just read him in a comic book like the night
that's so
beforehand. I'm
cool.
like, yes, it was a cool comic book. Like I finally feel like I'm like in the universe now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
love
that
that.
was a cool scene. There were so many different Kangs. Like I would not be surprised if Kang Dynasty, to live up to the name, has the Avengers versus 50 variants, like
Oh
different
yeah.
versions of him. Like imagine that fight scene. I just don't want it to get too CGI'd like an Ultron like bots thing. I think you need to be able to bring the camera in and like really see like each Avenger taking on a different
Kang.
Kang. That is that where we're heading, or are you just gonna focus more on like the three plus Kang the Conqueror?
I think what's gonna ultimately happen. Um, ultimately, I think what we're leading is that King Dynasty is going to be finally the Dynasty of Kang, the Council of Kangs, they're gonna get their revenge on the Avengers. They're gonna, take them all out, attempt to take them out. There's gonna be a big battle. Everything. Avengers are gonna have like a slight edge or something, and what's gonna end up happening is that the Conqueror is going to return, and it's gonna end with him killing the three, completely wiping them out, and they're gonna think like, "Oh my gosh, like you saved us, you're great." But little do they know, like, oh hell is gonna even worse. Hell is gonna break loose, and that's what's gonna set up like secret wars. Like they think they've won, they think they've got the upper hand, but they don't. And it's a slightly it's a slightly different take from like the Infinity War into, because at the end of Infinity War they lost, and they lost bad. But this kind of gives them like that false hope of victory where it really comes off that they won, and you could even have the end shot where even like someone could even say like, "Oh yeah, we just won, like you saved us," or whatever, and then the camera pans over to the Conqueror, and it's just kind of like a smirk or just like a evil glare or some facial reaction, and it cuts there, and we're just like, "Oh," I mean, we've got goosebumps thinking about that. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
I like that a lot. Like building up to his return, like not at the very beginning, but the end of the movie. I like that because, like, in his head, he's killed Avengers before. He doesn't think the Avengers even have a chance at beating him.
yeah,
So, like, in his mind, the only people that have ever had power over him are his variants that locked him in the quantum realm. So, I like that idea. Like, if he finds some loophole, some weapon, something that can wipe out I mean, 100% every other variant of him, and we focus on all those variants and Kang Dynasty, and by the time Secret Wars, I like that it's literally all Avengers versus him, and when he's defeated, we don't see Kang again. Like he's done. All the variants are completely obliterated, and that would be like such a cool villain's like send off.
Yep.
After he's appeared so many places this saga,
and then it's gonna be through. I think it's gonna be two key characters that are going to be what brings the cavalry, for lack of a better term, for the Secret War, aka the part 2 of the Infinity Saga. Essentially, obviously they're gonna do it different, or they're gonna do it something completely in some unique way. But Doctor Strange and Deadpool, they are going to be the two characters that bring the cavalry, because I think Doctor Strange is in a unique position where he's going to be taking care of when the two universes collide. I cannot think of the word.
incursions.
Thank you. So I think that's gonna be a huge multiversal, bring in a ton of variant type thing. And then Deadpool is obviously presumably killing the Fox universe, and will probably bring along some people along for the ride, including Wolverine. And so I think that will be kind of like in some way our portal scene. And like I don't think Doctor Strange is going to be I don't think Doctor Strange is going to be in King Dynasty.
I don't think he needs to be. I think
don't
his
either.
movie could come out between the two.
Yes.
And like tell us what he was doing during the time. I think this new Avenger, like between Captain America, New World Order, and Kang Dynasty, we're gonna see this new team form with probably Sam Wilson leading it, maybe someone else, but it's going to be a team from the ground up with maybe a couple overlaps, but it's going to be a new team, and they gotta have to learn how to work together as a new team. And I do think then, like you said, I think you're going to save that big portal, and it's not going to be portals. It's going to be something different. You're going to save that big portal scene, and there's a lot of rumors going around that the new Avengers are going to be the characters that are the focus, and including Spider-Man, in Kang Dynasty. And the rumor is they're going to take a back seat, and Secret Wars is literally going to be the characters like from all across Fox and Sony. Like that's going to be so cool if they can pull this off. And it would give like how No Way Home was payoff of 20 years. Yeah. This could be the same type of payoff, because you could bring in Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan as different, Johnny Blaze, or Johnny Storm. There's so much potential. Like the people that grew up with the X-Men movies finally get to see the X-Men in a true Marvel Studios film. It's going to happen.
And they're talking about like Secret Wars could end up being 2 parts, and I think that it needs to be. I honestly could see that film being 2 3 hour long movies, and I think everyone would see both 3 hour movies, and I could see a world where it justifies that because I feel like there is so much story and so many characters to be told. It is like this giant epic, like we have so many new characters now, and we still have characters that are arrived from the first saga. Like, also, like, I didn't even bring this up, but I also think part of the Calvary, I like calling it the Calvary, the Eternals. What about, and then we also have, like, I mean, maybe they won't show up for this, but I'd be surprised if we don't get at least one supernatural hero. I would be surprised if we didn't get, like, Moon Knight or Blade. I mean, we also have the Black Knight. I mean, people absolutely love Werewolf by Night characters. They could show up too. Like that's where we are
Yeah.
in such a unique place where we only had the characters from the movies, but now in a way it's kind of doubled. We now have character. Well, yeah, I will count the specials as a TV show. We have the TV shows and the movies. We have double the amount of characters now.
I would be shocked, I think, if by the time Secret Wars, whether it's 1 or 2 movies, if every lead and most side characters from all films and television don't make an appearance. Like, I'm expecting, Moon Knight, I'm expecting Daredevil, like, even these street level heroes, they don't need a big part, but they need to at least have a cameo. Like, this Secret Wars should be like, look at all the toys in our toy box, let's play with all of them.
Yeah.
It needs to be that. Like, if you can do that, like, just to give the fans a chance to see, like, you might have people at this movie that don't watch everything, but they watched Daredevil, they watched Moon Knight, they watched She-Hulk. So they give them a chance in the theater to get their applaud moment when She-Hulk has a big hero scene, and Moon Knight and Daredevil. Like, give each hero that moment. Like, Endgame did that for every character, and we had this many characters in Endgame. And now look at where we're at.
Yeah.
Because the universe has exploded since COVID, really. You know what I mean?
I wonder, someone's probably done the math. I wonder how many heroes were at the portal scene, like main side hero. Like, I'm not talking about like the good, like the Wakandan soldiers or anything. Like, I'm talking like our heroes that we're following. I wonder how that would be, because I have a feeling that number is going to be probably double or triple for Secret Wars, because not only do we have all the new characters and also the old characters from the first saga, we also have all of the legacy characters from the other years of Marvel. Like, easily, I would say we're gonna have about we could potentially have 100+ heroes on screen, which is
I just looked it up. There are 36 main or named characters in the portal scene in Endgame.
yeah. I'll confidently say
We'll double it at least.
I'll confidently say I think we're gonna triple.
I think 100 would be an amazing number. Like, now they can't just copy portals. They're gonna have to do something unique. But it's going to be that scene when you have 100 characters, and I think for most of Endgame, like the portal scene, they filmed that together. Like, that's so hard to believe they got all those people in one room to do that. I don't know if that's possible now, or if they want to keep it like hush hush and they superimpose it together, whatever.
I think it'd be so special for them to all. Oh, it'd be so special for them together. Imagine when we're reading the next edition of this book, the next 10 years, and we get to read about that. The fact that they were able to get 100 actors in one giant studio or something. Like, the edition 2 of this is going to be insane.
And as much as I loved last year of having nonstop Marvel content, like, I really think this year we're getting 2 more movies and 2 more shows.
Yes.
And X-Men 97. That's what we're getting.
Yeah.
So things are slowing down, which again, I'm fine with. I'm fine with quality over quantity.
Yes.
But here's my thing then. If you're slowing down, you're spacing things out, then you push, whether it's Secret Wars Part 1 or whether it's Secret Wars Part 2, if you end up doing that, you push that to May 2028, and you say for the 20th anniversary, come see 100 characters. Like, I don't even care if they won't. You could advertise it as like the biggest comic book movie ever, and like you could advertise it like
they will
100 posters. But they will try to keep it secret like they did with Endgame, even though we knew that they were coming back. You could literally put out like how there's so much they could do to make this like the biggest film of all time, because it has, like you said, between all the multiverses, You could bring in the Sony characters. I don't even care if Morbius is there. Bring him on. Like, let's do it.
I said it 2 or 3 weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago. I said it. I believe that it will be the first film to hit 3 billion in the box office.
If they properly market it and don't try to keep things hidden away, like, yes, you can have some surprises, but if you market this as saying, think of a Marvel character that's ever been on screen, whether it's in TV shows, whether it's in movies, you're going to see this person. You get your payoff. If Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was your thing, come see Phil Coulson back on the big screen. Like, do something like that. I don't know.
I think one thing
good.
to also talk, because like we talk about, I think this is way too early to speculate, but it's appropriate to bring it up right now. With the portals, I think one thing is to think about is like, how are they going to do that different? Well, just think about it. We're bringing in universes of characters. Like, I would not be surprised if we like see, like, if the battle was on Earth, because I feel that would make sense.
But I think in the comics it happens on like a different planet.
Yeah,
Secret Wars. But again,
they create, like, I think there's two separate stories. One like creates like a battle world type thing, but
yeah.
wherever it ends up being, I think it'd be just so cool just to see like the sky completely light up and you see all the different universes, all the different galaxies, and just heroes coming from everywhere and everywhere. Like, something just, it just completely blows the portal. Like, we thought the portals was mind blowing, and it is mind blowing, but just imagine the sky opening up to universes and galaxies, even like the timeline, and characters are coming out from the timelines and the branches. Like, they could do a lot, and I think we're gonna be mind blown. I think we'll be surprised, and we definitely have probably longer to wait for it, but I think that will be better for everyone, us, the viewers, the actors, the visual effect artists, everyone involved. I think it is better, and I think we can thank Iger for that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the wait will be worth it. It'll pay off in the long run.
Yes.
And just like waiting through the credits, we got our first ever post-credit scene that advertised and promoted what we're going to experience on a Disney Plus show, which was huge, I thought, because yes, we've gotten scenes before, from upcoming movies. Like, I think about the first Ant-Man has a scene from Civil War.
Yes.
We've never had a scene in the movie or in a post-credit or whatever that is likely going to be a direct scene from an early episode, probably, of Loki season 2. And it showed a different version of Kang variant. It showed Loki and Mobius identifying him. Like, I really would love, just like how season 1 was tracking down Loki variants, including Sylvie, I would love for season 2 to be tracking down a variety of Kang variants.
Yeah.
And like, Loki is going to be such an important character because he, just like Scott, knows the Loki mythology here.
Yeah.
Was that a great scene? Like, when did you realize it was from Loki?
I think I realized pretty quickly when they were, because they show us Victor Timely first, which is the variant.
Yeah, that's his name.
When they showed us that period setting, that was like, oh, this is Loki, and then they revealed them in the audience, and I was like, oh. And then Mobius is like, wait, this guy, this is who we're afraid of, and it's like, oh, it's so good, and like, there's so much history with Timely in the comics and the importance and what all that can mean.
I don't know him yet. I don't know him much.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of new Rockstar videos as they've breaking a lot of content down, and Victor Timely is an interesting cat, and yeah, we're in for some fun stories, and I think we are going to be chasing some variants. I think he's going to be the main one, and I think that it's setting up some stories that are going to be told in Phase 5. Also, just to not to brag, but I won the invisible bet of there being 2 serious scenes. So
you did win that one, but I think in my head too, after you convinced me last week that during the movie I was going to see multiple Kangs the way it was marketed. Like, you thought that we saw different variants, and like I kept looking. I'm like, is that going to be a variant? Is that the real one? But it didn't turn out to be that way. That's okay.
Yeah, there was only one. I was surprised. I was actually I was like, oh, there's only one King in the movie. Interesting. I was duped.
Let's say that Loki season 2 is 8 episodes. Is that how many of the first season was? 6 or 8, or what was it? Okay,
6.
If it's 8 episodes, 6. Okay, let's say it's 6 again. How many episodes will Jonathan Majors appear in?
3 in a scene.
3 and a scene?
Yeah, so like the end, like final scene of like the of an episode, and then the final 3.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, they're searching for him.
Yes.
I I think it'd be really remarkable if they got him for all 6, like as a leading actor.
That'd be wild.
I think he's down to play this because I think he knows that when Secret Wars ends, his tenure in Marvel is done.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to take advantage of the next 5 years or however long to get as many appearances in as he can to go down. Like, if they play this right, Thanos who? You know what I'm saying? It could be this is Kang's story. You know what I mean?
Yep. I think we're gonna be actually, and we had talked about it because of the whole slip up with Feige, and he said, "Oh, we started. No, we're not gonna talk about that." We had talked about it where he could show up next. I think it's super interesting because then the producer talks about that, like, are we gonna see more Kangs, or like what's? And they said that Kang is going to be a major character and a major, like, they're going to be used in more than just one movie. So I am even more convinced now that, like, a variant of him could show up in the Marvels. A variant of him can show up. Probably not. I would probably say not Secret Invasion, but I think I would not be surprised if we see more variants in other movies, like the Thunderbolts, Captain America, New World Order, like just even as regular characters. Like, yeah, I think that is way open right now.
Did you ever watch the show Fringe?
I have not.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a character called the Observer who, like, is in every single episode, and you don't, like, sometimes it's a cameo, like, miss it because, like, someone that can go through time or whatever. But the first couple episodes, no one caught him until he kind of had, like, in the middle of season 1, like a role, and then you're like, go back and watch it, you're like, he is literally in all the episodes. Like, that'd be cool if Kang was like different variants of him popped up at different times.
That'd be interesting, yeah. It'd be even cool if there has been one and we just missed it. I know that isn't the case because Marvel fans are so astute right now. But man, that would be wild if we actually did miss one.
I'm glad that we were kind of on the same page too. Like, I really was trying to get a vibe from you, but I couldn't get one. So, like, I think we both liked the movie. There were some things that, like, kept it from being 5 out of 5 or anything like that. But I think we were both pretty close with, we liked it. We didn't love it, but I think that's kind of where we're at.
One final thing I want to close and talk about is I love the ending. I really like the ending. As cool as I think it would have been cool to see him in the future and we have President King or something, I like the ending because I like how he is doubting himself. And now it's almost like he's in a time loop of the same day whenever he started the movie, but now everything is kind of like gone negative. And I also love the fact that he is surrounded by King's color. Everything in that final 3, 4, 5 minutes is that it's purple, right? Okay.
Yeah, purple, green, yeah, like that.
Colorblindness. Colorblindness is a jerk, y'all.
I kind of didn't realize that till you said that. Yeah.
When they are when they're doing the birthday thing, there's a purple balloon. When someone stops to pet the dog or something, that person's wearing a purple shirt. The purple is tremendously used in the final that final little montage at the end. Like, rewatch that scene and count the amount of things that you see purple. There is a lot of purple, and it's intentional because he is going to be haunted by this. And he made a mistake, and they did not finish the business, and he's going to be complacent, and it's going to cause worst things to happen. But I just really like that ending. Because, like, he doesn't realize it, but he's so paranoid about Kang, to the point where even all of his surrounding is reminding him of Kang.
I didn't think about that. I have to go back and watch that. I think if I would have added one thing to the movie, I know they wanted to focus on the Ant family, but as we talked about, some of the Ant family got this, I think bringing Luis into the quantum realm with Scott would have added such a cool dynamic, like seeing someone that's completely new to this, superhero stuff. Like, I thought they were kind of setting it up. Like, remember in the second one, he does get small with Hope, in the car. Like, I think it would have worked because you already were cutting out other characters didn't have a ton of time. Like, adding Luis might have overshadowed him. I don't know, but like seeing him get it suited up, I think that would have been awesome. Like, that would have been a really cool moment. And I felt like him, and I can't, like, maybe it's not as important because I don't even remember the other members of the team's name. I felt like the team is such an important part in the first two movies. Like, their presence was felt. And, like, even other characters, like Cassie's mom and stepdad, like, there were characters that, like, I wish would have had, like, at least a cameo. Like,
Yeah.
remember, what's his name got a cameo at the very beginning? The cop from WandaVision.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, Jimmy Woo was in a non-speaking cameo. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did, I mean, you got him back and you didn't even say anything.
I was happy.
I don't know.
It made my day though.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it. I like that kind of connective stuff. But yeah, overall, it was good. I think I don't think it'll be my. I don't know. I think Guardians will be a more conclusion to a trilogy than this
Yes.
one was. And I think the Marvels, by moving it to November, is going to do a lot. I think it's going to do much better in November box office than July, I think.
And also give time for the visual effect artists.
Yes.
I
Because there's going to be a lot.
think a lot of people, what they were expecting for this movie is what they'll get in Guardians.
Yeah. I think you'll get we will get emotional deaths. We will get emotional callbacks. We will get more serious. I mean, a mixture of comedy and seriousness. And I think it's gonna be a fun ride too. I think they're both the movies will be fun, and then we'll get the girl power in November.
I'm so excited for that movie. I wanted them to give us a teaser, but that's okay. We'll be patient.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts about this fun, interesting movie? It's such an interesting movie.
I mean, yeah, I think it's an interesting way to kickstart Phase 5. I think it adds some, like you mentioned earlier, it adds a lot more weight to Ant-Man than he's ever had before. And now that he knows what's coming, he's going to play a big part. Like, I was worried they were going to kill him at the end. Like, really worried at one
Yeah.
point that he was going to die. And maybe he was at one point in the script, but I think it's important that you let him live because he is going to, he could be a leader. You know what? If he steps up as a leader, that would be the character arc that we didn't get yet. But I think maybe they could build to that.
Yeah.
He came in Phase 2, so he's been around for a long time. I don't know.
I don't
What
think
about you? Any final thoughts too?
Yeah, I don't think he's making it out of this saga. I think he will be dead by the end of it in some capacity. Just because of how long he's been around. I mean, he could still be one of those characters that stays for a while, but I don't think so. I think that clock is counting. Yeah, overall, I thought it was a really fun adventure. I'm glad that I can look at critics and not let that, subject my viewing, and I'm able to like separate the two. I had a really good time. I laughed a lot. I definitely thought some writing was lacking and there was some opportunities missed. However, this is just a small piece of the connective story. This is just one episode of the giant TV show that we're watching. There will be still more opportunities for all these characters. They're all still alive for now. Even if some of them want to be dead, like Hank has said. But yeah, I think the future's bright for this family. Well, I take that back. I think there are still plenty of opportunities, but I do think that Kang will be seeking revenge, and I do think more than anyone right now, maybe Loki, but I think the Ant family is there's a giant
Target number
bullseye.
one.
There's a giant bullseye on them right now,
I
and
could see whenever he does come back, whether it's the end or the beginning, like imagine Secret Wars. Again, they're not going to copy it word for word or anything, but I could see Janet being the first victim of his because out of any character, she's the one that caused him the longest time in the quantum realm.
I could see him killing Hank first in front of Janet, and then
Making her
killing
watch.
Janet.
That'd be a horrible 1-2 punch right there.
I'm not ready. I'm not
will
ready.
tell.
King.
We've got time. We've got time.
We got time.
But please let us know what you think about, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. That's going to wrap up episode 44 of Marvelcast. As we mentioned at the beginning, we are going to take about a month break, so we'll be back at the end of March. So hopefully within the next month, we can hear from you and hear about your thoughts and feedback as well. If you do have any questions or comments or topics you want us to discuss on here, please feel free to email us at marvelcastpod@gmail.com. Once again, that's marvelcastpod@gmail.com. We would also really appreciate if you could subscribe to our 1138 Productions feed. That's where we have our shows currently listed. Plus, we just started a kind of our YouTube channel that we will also link. And we're kind of trying to start, the video side of things too. If you'd rather listen to us and watch us on there, we're on YouTube underneath Marvelcast Pod. And JG, anything else you're working on right now, or are you kind of busy with the move and everything else?
Lots of moving. Fortunately, it's only just 30 minutes down, but yep, mostly just moving. You can find me on Twitter where I'm posting all my stuff that I'm working on with Utini.
All right. Well, I'll be talking to you, and then we will be back on the mic in about a month. But from myself and JG, and I guess Disney California Adventure pretty soon, we hope you have a marvelous week. And remember,
I could do this all day.